UFC Vegas 95. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video too. And also note, I'm going to be live for the whole card starting Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss the fight companion. And let's get into the fights. Starting it off, we have Stephanie Luciano versus Talita Alencar 2. They run it back after the Contender Series, and I think I'm going to stick with Alencar getting it done. The reason I am on her side is because of the grappling advantage that was already on display in the first fight, but also the relative improvement in her cardio shown in the UFC debut against Rayani Amanda. She was able to go a hard 3 rounds and beat Amanda, who's a pretty proven MMA veteran. Luciano has good striking, and that was her best asset on the Contender Series fight that ended up being a draw because she got a 10-8 round. But the third round, in which Talita Alencar was extremely exhausted, like she had 0 left, she still survived. So Luciano doesn't have great finishing ability or knockout power. And I think Alencar is still going to be very live to land takedowns. Now, she prided herself on, in the UFC debut, being meaner and landing more damage and shots. I think she did better. I think she looked improved against Rayani Amanda. And even though Luciano's the younger fighter, and you can say, okay, but she's younger, she's going to come back hungrier and ready. She hasn't fought since their last one. And I think Talita Alencar has got that dog in her. I don't care that she's 33. She's elite on the ground. She's already proven she can dominate Luciano in grappling. And how much better can Luciano get at jiu-jitsu in the period of time since their last fight? It was 10 months ago. You got proof that Talita's improving, right? 3 months later, fighting in the UFC. And now we have the Luciano rematch. I'm going with Alencar. I think she pulls through. As much as I like the striking of Luciano, I don't trust her on the ground. She's a favorite once again at -170. Listen, let me tell you something. The lock in this fight is the over 2.5. I will be shocked if this fight ends inside of the distance. -260 for that over. And Alencar is a dog at +146. I think Alencar is winning. Okay, underdog bet here, but you got to lock with the over. Maybe you're using the over as a parlay piece. Alencar, yes, it's the dog call. I do see her winning, but recognize it's a women's matchup between Alencar, who's 1-0 in the UFC, Luciano, who's making her debut, and they had a draw last time they fought. I think Alencar doesn't gas this time, and I think she ends up getting her hand raised on the scorecards. We're going with the better grappler, Talita Alencar, as an underdog to win the first fight of the night. Let's keep running. Next fight, we have Jarno Errens versus Youssef Zalal. I like Youssef Zalal a lot in this fight. He looked phenomenal against Billy Q on short notice. He stepped in, and Youssef Zalal looked to be about 10 times better than his previous UFC run, which saw him released from the promotion. He left the UFC, went on a win streak, even fought in kickboxing and won, and he destroyed Billy Q, who, say what you want about Billy Q's game, he's a crafty veteran. He's very durable for the most part. He's got game. Like, he's been in there with some of the better names in the UFC. And it's not like he's losing fights left and right. He fought Youssef Zalal, and he got shut out on the feet and then strangled, where he is known for the jiu-jitsu. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. Youssef Zalal is dangerous here. Jarno Errens is a good striker. I believe he's dropped every one of his UFC opponents. Inside of the UFC, though, his win against Steven Nguyen, it's not a super high caliber win, but it was a dominant performance. He definitely showed some serious power, quality kickboxing game, and he's not awful in any aspect, but Zalal is definitely the faster striker. Zalal is definitely the slicker striker, and he 100% has a grappling advantage to go alongside with everything. I think Youssef Zalal is emerging as a pretty decent featherweight. He's still young at 27, nearly 28. He'll be 28 very soon. He'll be at 28 a day after the fight. I think that he's going to come through and beat Jarno Errens, and I think he has a top 15 future. I remember when Zalal took on Ilia Topuria. Yes, my pick was way off. I had Zalal. I thought he'd be able to get to him. So I've seen the potential in Zalal for years, whereas with Jarno Errens, he's okay. But I don't think that he has a high ceiling like Zalal does. So I'm going with Youssef Zalal to win. And I'm thinking he might show the ground skills again and end up getting a submission here. Now, Zalal, he's a very confident pick. He's a minus 350 favorite, though. So not much money to be made on a money line. It's a parlay piece, though. And then Jarno Errens, a plus 285 dog, over 2.5 at minus 190. I'm interested in seeing the sub prop, and then Zalal becomes a confident pick, potentially in a parlay later in the week. We'll talk about the betting side, more depth, in the coming days. But Youssef Zalal to win the fight. I like the style. I like the ground skills. I like the Billy Q win. He's fought in the UFC against now the former champ Tybura. He welcomed to the octagon. He still went long against him. Jarno Errens, the Nguyen win, and then the Sungwoo Choi loss, which aged kind of bad. William Gomis loss as well. I think Youssef Zalal is good to go here, and I think he's getting a finish. Youssef Zalal, good as gold, gets it done. Let's keep on running up. Next fight on the card, heavyweights going after it. Karl Williams versus Jhonata Diniz. This is the essence of striker versus grappler. Wrestler versus kickboxer. Diniz is going to be my pick by knockout because Karl Williams is purely a lay and pray wrestler. And we can't have that running through an exciting heavyweight striking prospect. And now I know what you're thinking. Oh, but Diniz was mounted by Austin Lane. Fair point. And Austin Lane is not a very good wrestler, okay? I understand. Lane is still a monster of a man at 6'6", and I do not think that Diniz anticipated that takedown. Karl Williams is purely a wrestler. His striking is very mid-tier. Look at him getting touched up by big shots against Justin Tafa, and Tafa is 6 feet tall. Diniz 6'4". This is the first time Williams is really dealing with somebody that has high caliber power and striking skill and a size advantage over him. I believe that if Diniz is able to survive on the ground, he might get taken down and grinded out in the first round. But if he can survive and make it to a second round and strike, all he needs is 90 seconds or less. He will find the chin of Karl Williams because he is substantially better at striking. He has substantially more power. You look at Williams' stance, even the way he stands, it is not a stance to strike with power. It is a stance to survive and grapple. Justin Tafa made very dumb mistakes in that fight. He was throwing kicks, high kicks. Don't throw these high kicks at freaking Karl Williams. Throw your hands at him. And Diniz definitely has the knockout power to put Williams out. And I'm just not ready to write him off. He's 7-0 as a pro. I think he's going to come out better than last time. And I know he's training his grappling. That's going to be his main focus at camp because he's dealing with a guy that just wants to lay and pray but has zero striking threat. Diniz, he's pulling off a knockout. I'm going with the underdog. I'm going with heat. I'm going with heavy power. I don't see Williams surviving 15 minutes because Williams is no finisher. Never finished a fight from Contender Series to the UFC. He hasn't won a fight in the big show by finish, period. Minus 205 for Williams, plus 175 for Diniz. Under 1.5, plus 150. Listen, just give me Diniz by KO. We'll see what that odds look like later on. Diniz is going to get the knockout. He'll find that chin, and he's going to put Karl Williams to sleep. I'm going with Diniz to represent. I think he's getting a KO. I got to respect the kickboxers. I'm going with the former pro kickboxer to get a devastating knockout and put Karl Williams out. Let's keep running up. Next fight on the card, we have Karol Rosa versus Pannie Kianzad. I like Karol Rosa a lot in this fight. I actually think that she's going to look good against Pannie Kianzad. I'll say this. I never thought Pannie Kianzad was all that good. I don't know. Sometimes, I believe in the past I must have picked her. I don't know. I don't have the picks of every time she fought off the top of my head. But whenever I watch it, I'm like, bro, Kianzad is meh at best. She's got okay pressure with the grappling. Her boxing is meh. It's okay. I don't understand any hype. I don't know how she's really ranked. I don't think she's that good. Karol Rosa, last time out, Karol Rosa and Irene Aldana put on a show. That was one of the more badass fights of women's MMA in 2023. She's got really clean boxing, but also has tremendous low kicks, which were a factor in that fight. She has good jiu-jitsu. She is a former brown belt jiu-jitsu champ. So I think Karol Rosa is better everywhere than Pannie Kianzad. Now, last time Kianzad fought, she got subbed up by Macy Chiasson. now represent Chiasson's a savage, okay? Because Chiasson just went out. She cut up Bueno Silva, got a victory there. Chiasson has really emerged as a legit contender. But Kianzad, I mean, fight before, Ketlin Vieira absolutely bodied her for the majority of the fight. Karol Rosa is also the younger girl at 29. I see higher potential as a professional fighter. I see better striking, more precise overall on the feet, and elite jiu-jitsu to go alongside of it. I think Karol Rosa is going to win. I'm picking her in this fight over Pannie Kianzad. I think she represents. I think she gets it done. Rosa's decent, and I think she's good enough to beat a Kianzad here. The Yana Santos fight was not a split decision. It should have been a unanimous, and she took it on very short notice, up in weight. She just needed to come back and get a W after the prior fight, which is a loss to Norma Dumont. No shame in losing to Norma. Karol Rosa to beat Pannie Kianzad. I'll say decision is the official call. Minus 170 for Rosa. Kianzad at plus 145. I like Rosa a lot. Over 2.5 is minus 370. That's probably happening too. I think Rosa is just now hitting her stride in the UFC, so don't sit here and judge her from her worst moments. Look at the best moments. Look at the good moments against Aldana. I think she's got a bright future, and I think she's beaten Pannie Kianzad in pretty clear fashion this Saturday. I'll say she gets a decision here. Clean decision. Maybe a sub, though, too, because she is good on the ground. Next fight, we have Danny Barlow versus Nikolai Veretennikov. Nikolai Veretennikov. What a hard name to say. I was listening to it, too, before we came on the damn show, but it's all right. Listen, give me Danny Barlow. I don't even need to say Veretennikov too many times. I think Danny Barlow is going to knock him out. I'll give respect. Veretennikov is working his ass off to get back to the big show. I mean, obviously he didn't fight in the UFC, but he fought Michael Morales on Contender Series, and he did okay. He got dominated in the fight, but he did okay. He survived. He went long. He's a King's MMA guy, so he's trained at a good camp. But I just feel like you can't really highly tout him with these wins. Ashley Reese, undersized guy. For welterweight, I watched that fight. He laid him out, and the ref jumped in so early, though. Luis Iniguez, mid-tier journeyman. DeMarcus Jackson, a mid-tier guy who was kind of on and off in LFA. He's taken on Danny Barlow, who is a terrifying southpaw with devastating knockout power, incredibly quick hands, nasty reflexes, long reach, everything to like for an up-and-coming welterweight. Never lost as a pro fighter. He's knocking Veretennikov out. Give me Danny Barlow by KO. Veretennikov's striking is good, but he can get a little bit wild at times. He can get a little sloppy, but he seemed to have tightened it up. But how can I say he's going to be tight with somebody in Danny Barlow who's super tight with his striking? There's a different level of slickness. It's way more crisp with Danny Barlow. I do think Veretennikov can get some wins in the back end of the UFC welterweight division. He's not horrible. But I think he's open to some big shots, and I also don't believe he has the wrestling to halt Barlow. Because I really think if you want to beat a guy like Barlow, you're going to have to body him on the ground. Many guys in the weight class will not be able to deal with his hand speed or his reach. And I just don't think Veretennikov has that level of grappling to dominate in that type of way. So I think Danny Barlow's getting a knockout. I think Veretennikov's going down. I feel like I did my due diligence, man. I studied heavy on Veretennikov because I remembered him from Contender Series, but it wasn't clear. I watched the whole run on back, even the Ivy fight. I thought it was an early stoppage, to be honest. It was knee to the body, but Anthony Ivy's been killing it, so shout out to him. He's on a nice win streak, but that doesn't matter. We're talking this fight. I think that Danny Barlow pulls off a KO, and I think he sends Veretennikov down in ranks. I think Barlow's got top 15 potential, maybe. Maybe. Minus 288 for Danny Barlow. Veretennikov is plus 248 is the dog. Over 1.5 minus 210. I like the under 2.5 more than anything. But looking at Danny Barlow straight down the center, I think he becomes a parlay piece. I think he's winning. His hand speed's going to be a big factor. I don't see him getting bodied on the ground. Veretennikov is more of a striker. He's okay on the floor, but that's not his mainstay of his game. And I think he's going to be at a clear speed disadvantage. So Danny Barlow by a knockout. I think he can sleep Veretennikov. And if he did go out and win a decision, I don't think that's unimpressive either. Either way, I see him getting it done. We're going Barlow for the W. Next fight on the card, featured prelim, which I doubt this is the proper bout order. Charalampos Grigoriou versus Toshiomi Kazama. This is low level. just to be straight up, Kazama shouldn't be in the UFC. Grigoriou, I mean, he trains with the, Serra-Longo guys, the Weidman team. He's working with, the likes of Aljo, Marab, etc. I don't think he's that high level either. I'm going to pick Charalampos Grigoriou. I think he's live for a knockout because Kazama, to me, has some of the worst striking defense I've ever seen. You throw straights at him, they just get through. Seemingly, he has, 32-inch head with the way that he's getting touched by everything Garrett Armfield's thrown at him. He got knocked out quick by Nakamura, too. He's one of these road to UFC frauds. I'm sorry to say it, but there's a lot of guys from road to UFC. They're fighting on the Asia scene. They look okay there. Granted, I don't even think he was that impressive on road to UFC. They look okay there. They come into the UFC, and they get annihilated by guys of relatively decent level. Kazama is a grappler, more so than anything else, with a pressure style and a blanket-like control game. Grigoriou has a quality enough grappling skill set to fend off what Kazama is going to attack with, and I think Grigoriou has a clearly better striking game. I am going to say Grigoriou to get the KO. I think he can find the Kazama chin we've seen Kazama put out in his past three losses, I feel like Grigoriou's stand-up is good. Knocking out Cameron Smotherman pretty quick on Contender was impressive. He still went long against Chad and Helliger, and he had okay moments. And then Helliger's a scrappy vet. And Helliger's a tricky dude to deal with. I'm going to go with Grigoriou to win. He should definitely beat a Kazama. Odds for the fight, Grigoriou is -180. Kazama +155. Over -135. I'll tell you straight up, man. I think Grigoriou wins it. I don't know about the betting side at the moment. I do think Grigoriou gets it done, though. It's just he's an unproven guy at a high level. I mean, the win over Smotherman is dope, and he's got some decent wins, but this is not. He fought a 2-5 guy a few years ago. On paper, right? At least 27, 8-5. It's a battle of guys that are not high caliber. So, when you bet something like that, you're throwing your money at, something a little more risky than betting on a proven UFC fighter, or at least somebody that is absolutely, crushed quality competition consistently. But I'll say one thing. Grigoriou's win over Smotherman was pretty badass. So I am picking him, and I'm calling him by knockout. And I don't know. Betting side, we'll see. We'll see at the weigh-ins. We'll see how everything feels. But I do think he can beat Kazama. Next fight on the card, it brings us to our main card opener. We have Nascimento versus Jafel Filho. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the like button. And if you're new, subscribe. I sat on this one for a bit. I'm going to go with Nascimento for a simple fact. Shoot the Bucks, Diego Lima can't lose 2 weekends in a row. They can't go 0 for 3. I don't think it's going to happen. And they're taking on Nova União, too. So a little bit of a Brazilian high-level camp rivalry. Now, that's not really the reason I'm picking Nascimento. Both guys are good grapplers. But I have a feeling that Nascimento is physically stronger and a slightly better wrestler. They're striking. Nascimento and Filho, I feel like it's going to be competitive. Filho might be more powerful on the feet, though. But I don't think he's as accurate as Nascimento. This is one of those fights where it's a very interesting matchup because both guys relatively good inside of the UFC. The past 2 fights, 2 straight wins for both of them. You got 2 straight wins here, right? Lost to Mokaev for Filho, and he almost had him in a knee bar, so he's definitely got slick jiu-jitsu. Lost to Ulanbekov 2 years ago now for Nascimento. And then a 2-fight win streak. Jake Hadley, Carlos Hernandez, right? Wins Daniel Barres, Ode Osborne. Both of them have not beaten the elite caliber, but I'll say this. A win over Jake Hadley, I think, is more impressive than submission wins over Osborne or Daniel Barres. Carlos Hernandez win by finish. I mean, he did do him easy. I've always felt like Nascimento's a top 15 level guy for sure. And I've been very curious to see like a Nascimento-Cody Durden fight. So with faith that that's going to eventually happen, I'm picking him to win this fight here. But it's definitely competitive with Filho because Filho does have underrated power. He's got good jiu-jitsu too. You got 2 guys that are really good on the ground. So I'm curious to see how they engage. Is it a grappling heavy fight or does it end up turning into more of a kickboxing match? I guess that's something we'll find out as they throw down. Odds for the fight of Nascimento at 2-1, Filho at +175. Over rounds is actually plus money at plus 125. Interesting. What is the likelihood of either one of them getting a finish, though, huh? I will say, though, Filho did get rear naked choked by Mokaev. Nascimento maybe he's live for a sub. But I feel like the actual odds of the fight, how I see it, 50-50. Like, I would say the odds are more even money. If it was minus 120, minus 110 range for either guy, I think I'd agree more so. And I guess you'd slightly favor Nascimento with more long-term UFC career. But I mean, the same amount of fights, though. Both have 3 fights in the UFC. It's just Nascimento's been on the roster a lot longer. I'll go with Nascimento to win. I do lean a decision, though. In a competitive fight, I think he edges a decision over Jafel Filho. So I'm going with Nascimento to rep, shoot the box Diego Lima, and make them very proud. Next fight on the card, ladies going after it. We got Yana Santos versus Chelsea Chandler. I'm picking Chelsea Chandler. I don't think Yana Santos is very good anymore. I don't know if she was ever that good to begin with, straight up. Chelsea Chandler's a good pick. I like Chandler a lot. I think Chandler's going to dominate this fight against Yana Santos. I know that Yana Santos has the Ketlin Vieira win 3.5 years ago, but that was a bad decision. She lost. She should be on a 4-fight losing streak. So then we dial it back. Julia Stoliarenko is her most recent win. And if you remember, Chelsea Chandler destroyed Stoliarenko when they faced off. You look at Stoliarenko's second UFC fight, Chandler's second UFC fight. She fought Norma Dumont. And I mean, yeah, she, kind of got memed by running away as she got hit. But Dumont's a high caliber girl. That was too far of a jump in competition. And then she beat Josiana Nunes. She was a dog in that fight too. And Nunes was, pretty highly touted as, dangerous, power striking. Featherweight fight, but they're saying 135. So at this point, the weight class is to be determined, but I actually don't care. Either weight class, I'm going with Chelsea Chandler to win. She's a Stockton fighter. She's at Cesar Gracie. She's part of the Nick Diaz army. I'm a fan of Chelsea Chandler. She's a southpaw with good boxing. She's physically strong, and she's nice on the ground, too. Yana Santos has okay kickboxing, decent enough clinch work, but I just feel like she's washed. I feel like she hasn't looked good in years. This wasn't a split decision. She lost that fight. I think Chelsea Chandler's going to showcase herself nicely. And I'm going with Chandler all day. I love Chandler in this fight and consider me a Chelsea Chandler fan. Plus 125, I'm going with Chandler as the dog. Yana Santos is washed. It's over for her. Chelsea Chandler's getting a hand raised. Minus 145 for Yana Santos. Chandler's a good underdog. The over minus 325. Give me Chandler, though. Straight Chandler underdog. She's live for it. I'm not surprised she's a dog. But then again, it's Yana Santos, though. Yana Santos hasn't won a fight in a long time. And she hasn't looked good in even longer. I think Chelsea Chandler's got this fight locked in. I know she's 33. And I know her record's 6-2. It's like, how's that going to match up? I just don't think Yana Santos has got the goods. I think we're going to see a Chelsea Chandler breakout performance. And I think she wins as the underdog again. I picked her against Nunes. I'll pick her again here. I'm repping Team Chelsea Chandler all the way through. Let's get it. Chandler for the Dubski. Let's keep running. Next fight is our featured bout of the night. Chepe Mariscal versus Damon Jackson. I think this is going to end up being fight of the night. Both of these guys are responsible for banger after banger. I'm going with Chepe Mariscal. And I wrote out factors, right, of why I'm going with Chepe. Because I was honestly a little bit torn at first because there are things to like for both guys. So when we look at one facet of the game, wrestling, I will give a slight advantage to Damon Jackson. I think he has better takedowns. The striking, Chepe's definitely better. He's definitely more powerful, and he's got better volume, too, on his shots. The actual grappling, Chepe's really scrambly, and Jackson has decent control from top, but not elite. I will consider it somewhat even, right? So it's like we're in kind of a 50-50, but where is everything separated? Who does more damage in their fights? I believe it's Chepe Mariscal. I'm going with Chepe. I think he'll do more damage here against a fellow Savage. This is going to be a really good fight. And I know Chepe's a chalky favorite. For a while, he was a great underdog to bet on. Now, he's actually the big favorite. And, he's at a disadvantage of height, disadvantage of UFC experience, but I think he can beat a Damon Jackson. If you look at Jackson's last fight, close fight, but a clean win over Alexander Hernandez, who's, mid caliber, decent, Billy Q loss, and I don't know. I think Chepe Mariscal, at this point, the Billy Q, especially that we saw against Youssef Zalal, I feel like Chepe's in the conversation to be that kind of level. Obviously, Dan Igue's elite. Pat Sabatini wins impressive, but Chepe beat Pat Sabatini pre-UFC. Dan Argueta win. Argueta's a damn bantamweight. Jackson's solid, but at times he is so out of position with the striking, and he gets a little sloppy with it. Mariscal is going to hit him with big shots. Jackson has a good chin. It's going to hold up. Jackson will probably land some takedowns here. So I'll tell you this. Betting on this fight is going to lead you to probably some anxiety, either side that you take, because there will be moments for both fighters. But I think Chepe Mariscal, bit more powerful, bit faster with the hands, scrambling well in the grappling transitions. I think Chepe gets it on the scorecards. I think he's live to pull through. I feel like a decision makes sense. Could he catch Damon Jackson and knock him out? Absolutely. We've seen Jackson knocked out before. Dan Ige, Ilia Topuria, outside of the UFC, Movlid, Kubalayev. But not easy to put a Damon Jackson away. And Chepe hasn't been sleeping anybody in the UFC just yet. He's got all, he got one finish win, but it was Jack Jenkins getting injured. But he's got decisions. Trevor Peek, Morgan Charrier. Charrier is definitely a slicker striker than Damon Jackson, and Chepe had moments in the striking there. So I think Chepe Mariscal is live to win a really hard fight. Nerve-wracking, though, because Mariscal, for some portion of that third round, was getting out-grappled by Morgan Charrier. And then Chepe is outstriking the elite, supposed slick French kickboxing. There's concerns on either way, bro. So the betting side, I think for me, probably going to be a stay away. But minus 240 for Chepe Mariscal. Damon Jackson plus 205. I think Chepe's winning over at minus 170. I think it's going to end up going over in an absolute dogfight. I am expecting this to be fight of the night. If you go back and watch both of their recent fights, barn burners. You go back and watch Mariscal, Trevor Peek, barn burner. You go back and watch Damon Jackson, Billy Q, barn burner. Both of these guys bring the excitement, and I'm telling you, this makes the card right here. This is one of the most exciting fights. This is the most exciting fight probably on the card, actually. Like, potential for violence and just an absolute back-and-forth war. You're looking at the fight. I understand the card isn't stacked with high-caliber talent, but trust when I tell you there's going to be some fun fights. This, specifically one of them. Like how Dana White does, that if you don't know, now you know. For me, it's going to be this fight right here. Make sure you watch it. I'm going with Chepe. Chepe Mariscal in a hard fight outdogs the dog, Damon Jackson. Co-main event of the evening, we got Javid Basharat versus Chris Gutierrez. I got to go with Javid Basharat. I can't pick Chris Gutierrez, man. Even though Basharat's Ayman Zahabi loss was relatively concerning, it was a pretty close fight. It's just Chris Gutierrez has sold so many times in the past when I've called him. And you guys, if you follow the channel long enough, I've been on Gutierrez in some key moments, and he always folds in the big moments. Maybe I'm making the mistake, and this is the time he's going to shine. But I don't think so. I think Basharat's pretty clean with the stand-up. Clean, similar to the level of Gutierrez. But also, I think that Javid Basharat wants it bad as fuck right now. He is getting the chance of a lifetime to fight Chris Gutierrez after losing a fight to Ayman Zahabi, which normally that would send you farther back in the rankings. Instead, he is getting the biggest fight of his life. And that tells me not only is the UFC a little bit behind him, but the team is confident. Extreme Couture is taking this fight against Chris Gutierrez for Javid Basharat because they think they can win with Javid Basharat. He's got a lot of hype on him still, even after the loss of Zahabi. Obviously, his brother's doing great things too. I think the skill set is high caliber. I still think he can kickbox with some of the better strikers. Chris Gutierrez is a technical striker, but he never puts his foot on the gas pedal. He was essentially built by a knee knockout of a completely washed Frankie Edgar. And when we look at it in hindsight, now we kind of see everything falling apart. Lost to Pedro Munoz, who was hurt in that fight. Beat Elatang Hae Lee, who's not a great striker. Lost to Song Yadong. And at the end of the fight, he's rolling for legs. He's losing. He needs a knockout, and he's going to roll for submissions. I have been completely disgraced by Chris Gutierrez after that fight. My gosh. I think that I've lost all confidence in him because that was one of the most negative fight IQ moments I've ever seen. A guy who's not known for submissions, period, rolling for legs when he needs a knockout. Yeah. It was terrible. Chris Gutierrez said himself he self-sabotages. And how can I come in here and pick a guy who self-sabotages? Now that I know that, it's an absolute truth. Basharat is dreaming of this. And I guarantee you he's coming in better than he was against Ayman Zahabi. And he still arguably could have got that fight in a close matter. And Zahabi's 14-2, so let's respect Zahabi's game. I think Javid Basharat pulls through in this one. I think Javid Basharat pulls off a win. Now, what's interesting is the betting odds have Javid Basharat as a minus 240 favorite. I was shocked at where they're sitting. Let's see. It opened up at 3-1. I would have anticipated Basharat and Gutierrez. I actually thought Basharat might be a slight dog or maybe a close money favorite, like a minus 145 type of situation. But damn, he's minus 240 as the favorite here. I disagree with the odds. Now, I do think we're going distance. I think over 2.5, highly likely. Minus 275, over 2.5 rounds. I feel like Basharat's going to get it on the scorecards. I can't go out and pick a Gutierrez who's not going to dig to the deepest and he's not going to dig deep. He's not going to put a high risk out there to get a finish. If he's losing, he's losing. If he's winning, okay, he's winning. He's outpointing you. Technically winning. To me, the betting side of it is the over, though, for sure. Over 2.5. If either of these guys get a finish, I will be pretty shocked here in this fight. So I'm going with Javid Basharat to beat Chris Gutierrez. And I think the over 2.5 is nice if you're looking for a potential parlay over. Boom. Let's jump to the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes. And if you're new, subscribe. We got Marcin Tybura versus Sergey Spivac. The rematch. You know, I think Sergey Spivac does it this time. I remember their first fight, and I did go back and rewatch it. Sergey Spivac's striking wasn't awful in that fight. He had a hard time stopping the takedowns of Marcin Tybura. You want to know something crazy, though? Tybura was the bigger man back then. Spivac weighed in the 230s. Now he weighs in the 250s. Spivac has put on a serious amount of size now. And I don't think Marcin Tybura is going to be able to out-wrestle Spivac like he did in the past. And when you look at the striking game, Marcin Tybura has always been a horrendous striker. Brutally put, but honest. Marcin Tybura is not good on the feet. Sergey Spivac is 100% the better striker of the two. The issue lies upon in the past, right? When they first fought, Tybura brings in a wrestling threat. And for a lot of guys that are great strikers, Tybura has such a scary grappling threat that they're unable to let their arsenal go. Sergey Spivac is equivalent in the grappling or even potentially better now that he's bigger. Spivac's definitely better with clinch trips and throws. Tybura may be better at just traditionalist takedowns. I think Spivac can land some big punches here. I have a hard time seeing these two go the distance, even though it's 100% fathomable to see a damn decision. Fight goes over 4.5 rounds, and it's a complete snooze fest of them just holding each other against the cage, and I'm sitting here frustrated on the live stream. I know it's possible, but I'm not going to believe that that's true. I think Sergey Spivac is going to finish Marcin Tybura. I think he might finish him with ground and pound, maybe even a submission. I think Spivac is avenging this loss. He was a 25-year-old boy when he fought Marcin Tybura in his debut. And it wasn't his debut, actually. I believe it was his second performance. He had beat Tuivasa in the fight before, but still, very young in his career. And he did relatively well against Tybura, who was known around the European scene. Now, both of them inside of the rankings. They meet for a second time. I'm telling you, Spivac is a man now. He's no longer a little boy. Tybura is not going to be able to take him down and bully him. Tybura is not going to have the option after he gets stung up with big shots to get Spivac on his back and buy some time. Instead, he's going to be forced into the pain. And I think Spivac is going to prove a point in this fight, even taking Tybura down and finishing him on the ground. I'm going with Sergey Spivac to get it done. I'm saying he finishes Marcin Tybura. I'm going with the fighter who lost the first time, avenging the loss. And Spivac is still not even 30, guys. He's a baby in the heavyweight division. I feel like he's representing nicely. Spivac to pull through. Minus 140 for the betting line. Sergey Spivac's the favorite. Marcin Tybura plus 120 as the underdog. I like the Sergey Spivac side a lot. Over 3.5, minus 115. I just think Spivac, potentially straight bet Spivac, or you're throwing him in a parlay if you're looking to go for something big. I'm not having it. Tybura's not doing it again. He beat Tuivasa last time, and I know Spivac made Tuivasa an absolute victim when they fought. I think that Spivac is going to beat Marcin Tybura, and he's doing it for the fans, bro. I like Spivac, even though, at times you can be a bit of a hug fest with him. When he gets going, he can dominate on the ground like very few. He's very physically imposing. He got knocked out by Cyril Gane, no shame. He got knocked out by Tom Aspinall, no shame. Marcin Tybura, dominated by Volkov, no shame either. And then knocked out by Aspinall, no shame. When you look at some of the recent wins, Tuivasa last time out for Tybura, Tuivasa was doing damn good on the striking, but he can't grapple for shit. Blagoy Ivanov decision, Ivanov is shite. Romanov decision. He kind of exposed Romanov after losing the first round. But the fact that he lost the first round in that way gives me confidence that Spivac could have success getting Marcin Tybura to the ground. And then Spivac with the win over Derek Lewis, win over Sakai, and win over Greg Hardy. You know what? Spivac didn't take the damage Tybura did against Greg Hardy. And listen, styles make the fights. I'm talking shit, trying to compare even Stevens. Like, Sakai knocked out Tybura years ago, but that was a damn generation back. Derek Lewis also beat Tybura a long time ago. That really doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's Sergey Spivac's time to right the wrong, and I believe that he does. In the UFC Vegas 95 main event, I got Spivac avenging his loss. Those are the picks for the card. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you all smash the like button on your way out of here. And listen, guys, daily content's coming. I am glad to have the support that I do because I hit 35,000 subscribers the other day. Thank you guys so much for supporting. I appreciate the hell out of the community. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Let me know what you thought of the picks in the comments. I definitely want to hear your take on the Chepe Mariscal fight. I definitely want to see what people's side is. And I also definitely want to hear about Spivac Tybura. So in the comments, let your voices be heard. If not, W in the comments at the least to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thank you guys all for the support and watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.